So even if it keeps them using a video game to keep your autistic child
out of your hair, yeah,
is one of the worst things you can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. I think we covered strokes and optimizing brain and so on. So let's go back just a little bit to that autistic child again, because that's still pretty hard to pick up a paper or a magazine without finding some article about something, whether it's vaccines or whatever it is, who knows. Do you have a theory about that?
I have lots of theories about it, and that's the problem. And I really think that there is a wide variety of autism. We certainly know the main distinctions: Asperger's versus autism, high-functioning autism, autism with ADD. I mean, there are a lot of variations. The bottom line is how seriously affected is the child and how early do we get them. There's an area of the brain that just doesn't function properly, and the question is how badly compromises that area. Now, I'm going to use a term that, because I'm from New York and I have an accent, people never seem to understand. It's a mirror.
Mirror.
Okay?
Mirror, yes.
Okay. Mirror is something that you look in to see your reflection.
Yes.
Okay. Now we know what we're talking about. The mirror neuron system. It's up over the sensory motor cortex, is where you pick it up. And what the mirror neuron system is the imitative structure in the brain. So, if I draw a triangle, there's an area in my brain that lights up.
Okay.
If I think about drawing a triangle,
same area? Okay.
Lights up. If you watch me draw a triangle, an area in your brain lights up, the same one. Not so with the autistic child. Now, if you think about the major problem that an autistic child has is learning social skills. Yeah. If they don't benefit from learning by watching you, then their social skill development is markedly compromised. Yeah. So what we do is we light up the mirror system and then have the parent engage in imitative exercises with the child. And it's not drawing the triangle that's important, it's the child observing you drawing the triangle, and then they do it and make sure that they have in fact watched what you've done. So that's one thing we do with the autistic child. The second thing is the right prefrontal orbital cortex is compromised in the autistic child, and what is sitting up there is the theory of the self. So their ability to recognize you as an emotional being is sitting up in there, and if that's compromised, that's what the autistic child that won't look at you. Mm-hmm. They don't see you. They don't.
It's as if you don't exist.
Bingo. Well, you don't.
In their mind, they haven't seen you.
That's right. As an emotional being, you don't exist as an emotional being, and lighting that up can have a huge difference. There are a lot of things implicated in that area of the brain. Some very serious mental disorders of adults is associated with compromised areas in the orbital prefrontal cortex. Right one, the right side.
Okay. So
now, see, the really fascinating thing is with neurotherapy, you put an electrode on the head, and you can access subcortical structures way down deep in the brain. The issue is knowing where to put them and how to triangulate them, so that it's like oceanographic
like
software.
Measuring the bottom of the...
You need a couple of sensors,
yep.
And if you get the software will determine how deep it is and where it is and what's the waveform, what's the frequency. So you see the pretty pictures we have.
Yep.
In which, with surface electrodes, we're looking deep into the brain of where the origin of this particular waveform is, so we can... The most exciting thing that happened to me at the Harvard Medical School was when I was asked to collaborating research with a neurosurgeon who did what were called cingulotomies. And that's where they sever the relationship of the anterior cingular gyrus, which is a subcortical structure a few centimeters under about here. And they do that for serious OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And they were doing neurosurgery to sever that to help
Stop the
control
OCD.
The OCD. Now, I'm not talking about a guy who counts tiles. I'm talking about somebody that's in a shower for 14 hours a day, scrubbing themselves and scrubbing their skin off. Okay, that's the level of OCD I'm talking about. We learned how to access the anterior cingular gyrus with a surface electrode, and that's in my book, by the way. And that was one of the major developments in my intake assessment, is assessing that. Because with autistic kids, one of the primary things is that area hyperactive? And if it is, that's the perseverative behavior of the autistic child. You know, they'll pace back and forth, or they'll say microwave oven, microwave oven, microwave oven, you know, that sort of thing. That's the anterior cingular gyrus that's doing that, and we cool that down.
And you cool it down with the
a surface electrode.
Surface electrode. Because I had a lady who's phoned me 7 times, I think, now since the program as well. And I don't think she's phoned your office yet. I'm trying to get her to phone your office, but she really obviously really needs help. And she's having trouble speaking. And she's been on drugs, but she's off her drugs. Should I go pick her up in my car and take her down to you?
Arrange to have an intake.
Yeah.
Now, you know, with serious OCD, folks, for example, somebody who hoards newspapers, we have a lot of examples of this. When you open the front door of their house, there's a passageway that's about a foot wide, and the newspapers are right up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
And you go back, and there's one chair and one place where they can eat, okay, and newspapers right to the ceiling. Okay. There was a beer can collector in Calgary. That
beer can guy in Calgary, I saw that, yeah.
Okay. I mean, you know, he was in an ocean of beer cans. So, you know. That's OCD.
That's total OCD.
Yeah.
What about collecting Cadillac convertibles?
I was going to speak to you about that. I had trouble parking outside your Cadillacs.
Well, how much longer we got there? A couple of minutes? 4 or 5 minutes? All right. Chris, have you got another question in here that's come out of that?
That came with
Now
it,
that's
and what I realized, having asked it, is that at that time, this is about 30, maybe even 40 years ago,
Yes.
and I couldn't find anything like that. I mean, this was in Minneapolis, and he was treated at the University of Minnesota, and I also went to the Kinney Institute, and they didn't really offer anything more. They were more interested in insurance.
Okay.
And
So Chris just said that. Pardon?
You can pick them up.
Oh, can you hear it? You're coming across on that. Oh, good. You're just talking loud enough. Now, Ellen, have you got another question?
Well, I would like to ask him about bipolar.
Okay. What about bipolar problems?
Yes.
Manic depressive?
We treat bipolar. Now, one of the problems with bipolar is it's the flavor of the week.
Yes.
Everybody and their grandmother has bipolar disorder.
Margot Kidder, Margaret
And
Trudeau.
we have found that since bipolar requires a lot of medication, that the lower you get in the age level, the more you can drug up people. So we're starting to get a lot of diagnoses of bipolar in very, very young children. Okay.
Now, is it a legitimate diagnosis, or is it something that people are pinning on them?
In my judgment, the label is inappropriate.
Okay.
As you know, if 5,000 people go through my office, maybe one will get a label.
Yep.
Okay. The issue is what